Caleb Johnson remembered it this way. His father worked the coal mines of West Virginia. He would wake up in the late afternoon, he would pack his dinner bucket, and he would go 2,000 feet underground for the night shift. The bucket was tin. The bottom held tea. The top held 2 sandwiches and an apple. And no matter how many times Caleb's mother scrubbed that bucket in hot water with lye soap, when his father pulled the sandwich out at midnight under a carbide lamp, it always smelled like coal. Every coal miner's bucket smelled of coal. You could not wash it out. Number 14 on this list is the official state food of West Virginia, and a coal miner invented it. Number 8 was wrapped in a crust the miners threw on the floor for underground fairies. Number 1 is the smell that stayed in a bucket for 40 years after a man stopped going down. Hit that subscribe button. Let us count down the 25 forgotten poor man meals coal miners ate deep underground. Number 25. The tea at the bottom of the bucket. Every bucket had it. Not coffee. Tea. Store owners in Fairmont, Clarksburg, and Madison kept tea in big canisters on the counter because they knew every miner who came in on Saturday morning would ask for a pound. Hot black tea, heavily sugared, poured into the bottom compartment of the tin bucket at 4 in the morning by a wife who had been awake since 3. Number 24. Ham sandwich on white bread. Cheap. Easy. Traveled well in a tin can 2,000 feet down. The ham was cured in a smokehouse out back. The bread was sliced from a loaf the wife held in the crook of her arm, the way her mother held it, and her mother before her. Number 23rd. Fried bologna on a biscuit. A working man's breakfast and a working man's lunch. The bologna fried until the edges curled up into cups that caught the grease. Slapped onto a buttermilk biscuit the size of a fist, wrapped in wax paper, cold by noon. Still the best thing in the bucket. Number 22nd. Pinto bean sandwich. You heard that right. Leftover pinto beans from last night, mashed with a fork and spread on white bread like butter. A splash of chow chow on top. 2 slices of white bread pressed together hard enough that the beans soaked into the bread and turned the whole thing into one soft brown brick. That was lunch for a miner in Harlan County when the money was gone and payday was still 3 days off. Cheap, filling, and nobody complained because complaining got you nothing but a lighter bucket. Kentucky miners carried this from the 1920s through the 1960s. Their kids grew up eating it too. You ask a man from Pike County today what his daddy took to the mine, and a bean sandwich will be the first thing out of his mouth. Number 21st. Cornbread squares with fatback. A square of cold cornbread from a cast iron skillet with a strip of fried salt pork tucked inside. Greasy, salty, and dense. It packed the calories a man needed to swing a pick for 10 hours in a 3-foot seam. Number 20. The molasses biscuit. Split a cold biscuit. Pour sorghum molasses inside. Wrap it in wax paper. Eat it at 11 in the morning when your carbide light had burned down to a flicker and your back was already on fire. Sweet energy for a body that was running on fumes. First pattern break. Here is what a coal miner's workday looked like in 1925. 10 hours underground. 6 days a week. Lunch was the only break. You ate in the dark with a carbide lamp on your forehead, or sometimes a lamp hung on a timber. The temperature in the mine never changed. Summer or winter, it was the same 55 degrees. So whatever temperature your sandwich was when your wife packed it, that was the temperature it stayed. And the bucket smelled. Coal dust soaked into the tin, into the seams, into the paint. A miner's daughter could walk into a kitchen 30 years later, and if that bucket was on the shelf, she could smell the mine her father had worked in before she was born. That smell was not a memory. It was a residue, and every man on this list ate food out of a container that carried the mine home with it every single night. Number 19. Hard-boiled eggs. 2 of them, sometimes 3 if the hens had been generous that week. Wrapped in the same newspaper that had the Union News on page 1 and the mine accident report on page 4. A man could peel one with hands that were black with coal dust, and the inside would still be white. Eggs did not care what your hands looked like. A miner from Belmont County, Ohio, ate 2 hard-boiled eggs at noon in a tunnel 40 feet high for 50 years straight, and never got tired of them because eggs do not ask anything of you. They are already cooked. They are already wrapped. You just eat them. Number 18. Fried apple pie. Half-moon shape. Dried apples soaked overnight, wrapped in biscuit dough, fried in lard until golden. The crust was tough enough to survive being bounced around in a bucket on a 2-mile walk to the tipple. The filling was sweet enough to make a man smile at noon in the dark. Number 17. Sausage gravy biscuit. A cold biscuit, split and stuffed with last night's sausage gravy, congealed into a spreadable paste by morning. Sounds wrong. Tasted right. German miners in Pennsylvania lived on this. Number 16. Rye bread with pork. The German lunch. Dark Roggenbrot or Schwarzbrote, sliced thick, with a piece of cured pork pressed between, heavily salted. A miner with German blood in Shamokin or Hazelton opened this at noon and tasted the old country in the middle of Pennsylvania anthracite country. Number 15. Kielbasa on rye. The Polish lunch, the same meal in the steel mills and the stockyards. A ring of smoked sausage, sliced into rounds, packed with mustard on dark rye. Polish miners in Johnstown and Wilkes-Barre carried this every day of their working lives. Number 14. The pepperoni roll. This one needs a story. Giuseppe Argiro came to West Virginia from Calabria in 1920. He was a coal miner. He worked the mines around Clarksburg until his back gave out. Then he opened a bakery in Fairmont called Country Club Bakery. In 1927, he started baking pepperoni inside soft Italian rolls. Because pepperoni does not spoil. Because a roll does not leak. Because a man 2,000 feet underground needs food that will still be food 8 hours after his wife packed it. Argiro's pepperoni roll spread through every coal camp in north-central West Virginia. Today, it is the official state food of West Virginia. The USDA tried to classify Italian bakeries as meat packers in the 1980s and almost killed the pepperoni roll. West Virginia fought them off. You can buy one at every Sheetz gas station in the state right now. A food invented by a coal miner for other coal miners became the taste of a whole state. Number 13. The salami and bread. Before the pepperoni roll existed, Italian miners in Fairmont, Clarksburg, and Morgantown packed a stick of salami and a hunk of Italian bread. No preparation. Just break off a piece of salami, break off a piece of bread, and eat them together in the dark. The wives who invented the pepperoni roll were trying to make that lunch easier. They succeeded. Number 12. The biscuit and molasses sandwich again, because every bucket had it twice. Once for lunch, once for the walk home. A hungry man walking 2 miles out of a hollow at 7 at night needed something in his pocket, and a biscuit with molasses was what was there. Number 11. Fried chicken leg. Cold, wrapped in newspaper. Leftover from Sunday dinner. By Wednesday, it was still in the bucket, still cold, still good. Chicken bones piled up in the mine tunnels until the mine rats took them away. And yes, there were mine rats. Every miner knew the rats. If the rats ran, you ran. If the rats stayed calm, the roof was probably holding. A miner who shared his chicken bones with the rats was not being sentimental. He was buying insurance. Second pattern break. Here is what the Cornish miners who came to Upper Michigan in the 1840s carried. A pasty, pronounced pasty, not pasty. A half-moon of pastry filled with beef, potato, swede, and onion, sealed along the curved edge with a thick rope crimp. That crimp was a handle. The miners in Cornwall worked in tin and copper mines, where arsenic came up with the ore. Their hands were coated with it, so they held the pasty by the crimp, ate the filling, and threw the crust on the floor. And here is the part nobody tells you. They threw the crust down for the knockers. The knockers were mining fairies, little underground spirits that Cornish miners believed lived in the rock. If you fed the knockers, they warned you before a cave-in by tapping on the walls. If you did not feed them, they let the roof come down. Grown men 2,000 feet underground in copper country believed this. They carved their initials into the crust so they would know whose pasty was whose. They left crusts on the mine floor for fairies, because in a place that dark and that dangerous, you did not argue with anything that might keep you alive. Michigan made Pasty Day official on May 24, 1968. Governor George Romney signed the proclamation. The pasty outlived the mines. Number 10. The fried egg sandwich. 2 eggs fried hard in bacon grease at 5 in the morning, slapped on white bread, wrapped in wax paper. Cold by 10 o'clock. Still the best meal a man had all day. Number 9. Fatback and cornbread crumbled together. Cornbread crumbled into a tin cup, hot black coffee poured over it, and pieces of fried fatback dropped on top. Eaten with a spoon at the bottom of a mine shaft by a man whose grandfather had eaten it the same way on a farm in North Carolina before he came north for the work. Number 8. The Cornish pasty. See the story above. Beef, potato, swede, and onion. Sealed in a crust, a man could throw it on the floor for the fairies. The Finns in the Upper Peninsula substituted carrots for swede, and the Cornish men never forgave them. There are still bakeries in Ishpeming, Houghton, and Calumet making pasties the same way they made them in 1860. Number 7. Sugar cookies, plain, round. Baked by a wife on Saturday and rationed through the week. A coal miner who opened his bucket on a Friday and found one last sugar cookie his wife had hidden under the wax paper knew he was loved. Number 6. The bean soup in a mason jar. A wide-mouthed jar filled with last night's pinto bean soup, sealed tight, placed in the top compartment of the bucket. Cold by noon, still good. A man could drink it straight from the jar with coal dust on his lips, and it tasted like the kitchen he left at 3 in the morning. Number 5. Chow chow and crackers. A southern relish of chopped cabbage and peppers in vinegar, packed on top of saltine crackers. An Appalachian lunch. Cheap and sharp, it cleaned the grit out of a miner's mouth after 6 hours of breathing coal. Number 4. Leftover fried potatoes. Cold fried potatoes from last night's supper, wrapped in a flour sack towel, eaten with fingers. A man who grew up on a farm in Kentucky and ended up in a mine in Harlan County ate cold fried potatoes his whole life. Nothing changed except the location. Third pattern break. When the coal industry started closing mines in the 1960s and 70s, it closed towns. Whole hollows emptied out. The men who had worked underground for 30 years hung up their buckets and walked away. And here's what happened. Those buckets did not get thrown out. They got put on a shelf, a kitchen shelf, a garage shelf, or the top of a dresser. And when a son or a daughter opened the lid 30 years later, the coal smell was still there. Still, coal dust is not dust. It is a stain. It soaks into metal, into wood, into fabric, into lungs, into memory. The lunch buckets that survived the mine closures became the most honest monument to coal country that exists. Every family in Logan County, in McDowell County, in Mingo County has one of those buckets somewhere. Take the lid off. Close your eyes. You are back in 1955. Your daddy is walking out the door with that bucket in his hand, and you do not know if he is coming back. Nobody in a coal town ever knew for sure. That is why the bucket matters, because it came home with him every time, until the day it did not. Number 3. The apple. Just an apple. Red delicious, wrapped in newspaper. Eaten last, because the sweetness cleaned the coal taste out of a man's mouth better than anything else in the bucket. Number 2, the wife's note in the bucket. Some miners found them. A folded piece of paper tucked under the wax paper. 3 words, 4 words, sometimes just a heart drawn in pencil. A woman who had not gone to school past 6th grade writing to a man who had not gone past 8th. Both of them saying without saying it that they were still here, still together, still waiting for the shift to end and the bucket to come back up the shaft. Number 1, the smell. Open a coal miner's bucket today, 50 years after the mine closed, and it still smells like coal. That smell is the man who carried it. His shoulders, his lungs, his walk down the hollow at 4:30 in the morning, his hands washing at the sink at 8 at night. The bucket kept the smell because the bucket was with him every single shift for 30 years. When a daughter opens that bucket now, she is not smelling coal. She is smelling her father. Ralph Stanley II wrote a song about it called Daddy's Dinner Bucket. The smell is the man. And for every coal family watching this right now, in Logan or Harlan or Shamokin or Ishpeming, you already know what I am talking about. That smell is home. Tell me in the comments which mine your family worked in. West Virginia, Pennsylvania, Kentucky, Ohio, Alabama, Illinois, Michigan, the Upper Peninsula. Tell me if your grandfather came out of Calabria with nothing but a name and ended up in Fairmont. Tell me if your grandmother packed pepperoni rolls at 4 in the morning. Tell me if you still have the bucket on a shelf. Those mines are closed now. The men who worked them are almost gone. But the buckets are still here, and they still smell like coal, and that smell is still home.